Let me just say, there is a big difference between ChatGPT, the product, and OpenAI's GPT-3 API. Now, yes, it's the same company. Yes, it's the same language model, kinda, but there's something different about the ChatGPT side versus the traditional GPT-3 model that everybody's used to using. And I think that'll be really apparent in this. So let me just show you. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Quentin, founder of Developers as a Service, and I just wanted to make this quick video because if you're online at all recently, especially in like the marketing space, online marketing space, you probably have seen something about OpenAI in the news, especially their newest thing called ChatGPT. But we're going to get to look at what it looks like here in just a minute. I've been trying to think of different ways that I can use it. And one of the primary services that my business, Developers as a Service, that we offer for a lot of the startups we work with is recruiting. So we'll actually work with you to create a job description, scopes, desired traits, all that kind of stuff, and then work with you to actually find the right developer. And at the same time, one of the primary things we have to do for developers is provide practice interviews. So one of the hardest things for us, though, is that you usually have to have somebody in real time available to practice interviewing with. And that's really time consuming. And, to have that many people on your team can be pretty difficult, especially to be readily available at any time, especially having them be technically savvy enough to really know how to help. So I was thinking, okay, well, how can I automate this? How can I make it so that ChatGPT or some kind of AI technology can help me out with that? That took me to using OpenAI's Playground and then using ChatGPT. And let me just say, there is a big difference between ChatGPT, the product, and OpenAI's GPT-3 API. Now, yes, it's the same company. Yes, it's the same language model, kinda, but there's something different about the ChatGPT side versus the traditional GPT-3 model that everybody's used to using. And I think that'll be really apparent in this. So let me just show you. So here we are on the OpenAI Playground. Now, the whole thing with the OpenAI Playground is you can choose which model you want to use. If you look over here to the right, you can choose the Text DaVinci, which according to them, this is the most capable model in the GPT-3 series. So if this is what's available through the API currently, this is what's available through their core product. This is not ChatGPT, by the way, which we'll see the difference here in just a second. But this is their core model. This is their most advanced, according to them, their most advanced GPT-3 model. The whole thing with it is that it's a text completion, right? So you have different modes. You have complete, you have insert, which I believe is the more ChatGPT based model. And then now they're working on an edit one as well. But for their traditional complete mode, you are basically starting a story, and then the model is trying to finish that story for you. I started the story by saying the following conversation is between an AI-powered hiring manager and a job applicant. The job applicant is applying for the following position. Here's the title of the job. And then I literally was just like, you know what? Let me just go look what that looks like on Indeed. So I went to Indeed and I typed in junior React developer, and I got this job description here, took it and copied all the important parts of it directly into the Playground. I gave an additional prompt that says the hiring assistant should only ask questions in a friendly manner and should only ask questions that are relevant to the position. And the assistant should only ask one question at a time in a conversational manner, should not provide any explanation. And very important part, the stop sequences. So what this means is whenever this applicant prompt comes up in the completion, stop. Or if I hit enter, so a new line gets created, stop generating tokens. So that helps control the actual flow of it. So I said the conversation should go as follows, and then I added these two lines. And this is just how a traditional API call with a prompt would work. So if you're using the GPT-3 API, and this is the point that I wanted to make. Traditionally, you're going to be using the GPT-3 completion API because that's the API endpoint that's available. Whenever you want to use a Zapier node or any Integromat node or anything like that to make an API call with your API key, this is the prompt and the API style that you're using. It's completion. So given that, it did okay. Obviously, not to the scale of ChatGPT that we've been looking at, but pretty relevant. Can you tell me a bit about your experience? I answered, said that I worked on an e-commerce website. So this is doing pretty good, provided a completion prompt like we're used to seeing with OpenAI. So traditionally, any OpenAI based programs, this is how it works. Very simplified. And then there's a fine tuning endpoint that you can use where you can actually create your own model given the base model, and then add your own examples over and over again, and it'll get a lot better. And so that's the traditional OpenAI GPT-3 use case. Now let's look at ChatGPT. So I took the exact same prompt to the T, didn't change anything, and I put it into ChatGPT, the UI here. From here, when it gave the completion, for one, it followed the instructions of not letting the applicant, like not typing out the response for the applicant, but it did the entire thing all at once. So using the exact same completion style prompt, but a different model, well, the same model, but a different UI, different application thing, it did this. And so I was like, okay, the biggest thing is that there's no stop sequence. There's no way for me to put a stop sequence in place. After seeing that it didn't do what I wanted it to do, I said, you know what, let me give it an instruction. You are the assistant in this situation. Only ask one question at a time and wait for the user's response before typing out your next question. So instead of purely going from a completion standpoint and saying, this is how the story started, let the model complete it, now I gave it an instruction, and then it is inserting what it thinks would be the proper response to that instruction. And that brings me to the other mode. So the insert mode is a little bit different. Let's see how it responds. So if you want to use the insert mode, which is in beta for right now, you have to use an insert token where you want the model to generate the text. So for here, I'm going to copy that same prompt, but you see I put insert at the bottom here. This is where I want it to insert the text. I'm going to click submit. And then from here, let's see how we do. Okay, cool. So it took a little bit, but yeah, so the same problem here. So this seems to not be following the prompt entirely. So the last generation that I did to test it actually worked and only generated one question at a time. For this one, it seems to still be doing the entire conversation, both sides for me. So of course, still in beta, but that's just to give you an idea of what the insert mode is like. The biggest thing that I wanted to get out of this, there's a very big distinct difference between the traditional OpenAI GPT-3 model that you're used to seeing. And there's a lot of them out there that are using this as a text completion API endpoint, and this is more so what it looks like. And then the ChatGPT is more instruct based, because as you can see here, I had adjusted the initial prompt with an instruction, and then it actually gave me a better result. And then now I probably don't even have to put applicant anymore. I could probably just put, I can type out something like this, and wow, okay. So it gave me a pretty good response there. Can you give me an example of a project you've worked on where you had to decompose a problem, research solution, and convert tasks into deliverables? So yeah, this would be a good opportunity for the potential applicant to actually break down their work history, their work experience, and actually show how it could apply to this job description up here. So while I was actually working on editing this video, this article got brought to my attention, and as you can see, it says general availability of Azure OpenAI service expands to large advanced AI models. And what this means basically is that Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud provider, so Microsoft has their own cloud as a service or infrastructure as a service basically, that provides different cloud databases and networking services and stuff that developers and companies can use to actually run their apps on. They said, look at this, we're going to have GPT 3.5, which is ChatGPT's actual model that's been trained and runs on inference on Azure AI. This is all actually becoming generally available to anybody with a valid Azure portal. So that's pretty exciting because everybody's been asking about how this is actually going to be useful in production beyond just the two interfaces that I showed a little bit ago. And let me just I went through the application process, and let me just kind of show you what it looks like. So the first thing you're going to have to do is fill out this form, which I'll link down below in the comment or in the description. And you basically have to fill out all this different information that says who you are, who's your company, and you have to go ahead and register with Azure. And once you do register with Azure, it's going to look kind of something like this. So you're going to have like a default directory in here, which is going to allow you to set up which is going to allow you to set up a subscription, and that subscription will then allow you to add the cognitive services, Azure OpenAI. And so you'll go to click create. You'll have to have your subscription, and you'll have to have the resource group that you want to apply here. the region. And the thing that you'll be limited by is you won't have any pricing tier available. So once you do have access, and you can see it does say you need to request access here, and I just submitted through that form as well. But once you do have access, it'll just let you choose which pricing tier you want to go with. So once you choose, once you actually get approved, you'll have a pricing tier here. Once that pricing tier gets chosen, you can create this resource, and then you can actually access a lot of things like OpenAI's Dolly. Well, Dolly 2 is not available right now. I think Codex is available. GPT-3 is available. But it's important to go ahead and request access to this if you eventually want ChatGPT, because this is where the ChatGPT API is going to come out, it seems. And I don't know if they're going to have it on OpenAI's actual API as well. But yeah, you can actually go ahead and get it connected to Azure and get connected to the API side of it. I hope this kind of brings some clarity into kind of what you're looking at for the two different, when you just see somebody saying that GPT-3 is ChatGPT, it's not quite the same. It's not exactly the exact same model, and this should give you a better idea. So let me know any questions you have in the comments. Let me know where, what the next video should be about, but I'm super excited to see where, the next product actually comes out, and see where we're going next with these language models.